everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are really excited today because we are talking with two of the creators behind Ghost Haunts Boy, new, very cute little movie that's just debuted on Netflix. And we're talking with Emily Ting, the director, and Cesar Vitale, the writer. And thank you both so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for
Happy to be
having
here.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you. And what we like to do for new guests is give you a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got inspired to get in your journey to becoming a director or writer. In your case, Emily, both and a writer and director. But Emily, what about you? How did you get started?
Hi, I'm Emily Ting. I'm the director of Girl Haunts Boy, but separately, I'm also a writer of
Yes.
Christmas movies for Hallmark. So this is actually a big moment for me because I am a huge fan of this podcast. I listen to it religiously. So
Oh
thank
my
you so
gosh.
much for reaching out to me. The quick version of kind of how I got here. Um, So I had gone to film school. I've always wanted to become a writer and director, but I did sort of take a detour in my journey coming here. I actually went to Hong Kong and worked for my family's business for many, many years. So I kind of like took a little pause and I didn't know at one point if I was ever going to return, but that spark kind of never went out. So, on the eve of turning 30, I actually decided to move to LA and kind of really give it a go. And, I made Already Tomorrow Hong Kong, I made Go Back to China. Those were my two indie films that kind of then led to where I am today, where I'm sort of like the go-to YA rom-com director for Netflix.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
then separately, also this writer of Hallmark Christmas movies. And I like genuinely love both so much.
Did you grow up in Hong Kong
No,
then?
so I was born in Taiwan. I grew up in Taiwan, well, until I was 10, and I moved to the States when I was 10. So I grew up pretty much here until college, but I spent my 20s living in Hong Kong as an expat.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Very cool. Very cool. Well, what about you, Cesar? What's your journey been?
I'm actually from Brazil. I was born and raised in Brazil. I didn't move to the US until I was 24. And I've grew up like Emily, loving film and loving, writing in all forms, both prose and screenwriting. I think I was the only person that ever read like Save the Cat and Sid Field and all those books for fun as a teenager.
Yeah.
But I never really saw it as a realistic career. So I didn't go to film school. I graduated in marketing and advertisement back in Brazil and came to the US to do an extension program at UCLA on marketing and advertisement. But while I was there, I learned that they had a screenwriting program, and I figured I'd do that as kind of like I had no hopes of doing this for a living my whole life. But the year that I did that, I actually wrote a script that ended up getting attention in town, and that was the Great Nothing, which is a whole other story. That ended up winning the Nickel Fellowship in screenwriting. And in the span of like 6 months, I went from I'm just going to do this weird screenwriting thing and go back to Brazil and live my life to I think I may have a career here now. And that's when this was 10 years ago now, and then I've moved here and I've been working as a writer ever since. And Your Hunt's Boy is actually my first feature film that's been produced, so I'm super excited about.
Congratulations. That's so cool. That's so exciting. I
Thank
always
you.
feel like that first one must be the hardest one because you don't have those contacts and getting in there and making that happen. I think it would be the toughest one to either direct or write, that first one.
Yeah,
So
I think
congrats.
I hope so. I hope it gets easier, but
Yeah.
there it's every I think every film is its own challenge. I've never heard any writer or director that I know say, "Oh, that was super easy to make that one. I
Right.
had no problem. It's
It's
just
hard.
perfect, like just cloudless sky."
Yeah, yeah. So Emily, how did you get involved with Hallmark? How did that start? Had you been a fan of the movies? Did you know about them being in
So
living abroad?
I had a writing partner for many, many years, Melinda Bismeyer, who was a friend of mine from film school. So we've like known each other for a long time, and we've been writing together for a while. And I always tell people like Christmas at the Golden Dragon was sort of like our foray into Hallmark, but we didn't write that movie with any agenda. It wasn't like, oh, did you know there was this huge, like made for TV Christmas movie market that we like need to get into. We honestly just wrote a movie that we wanted to see. We had gotten together in January. It's like, what did you do for Christmas? What did you? It's like, oh, we both like ate Chinese food on Christmas. And then we're like, yeah, like how come there's never been a Christmas movie set in a Chinese restaurant? Someone should write that. Let's write it. So
Yeah.
that's all it was. Like we were just wanted to write something that we wanted to see. And then that was the script. My manager at the time knew one of the producers at Timeless Pictures, and he slipped it to Alex that way. Alex read it, loved it, and then brought it to Hallmark. And that's kind of how we got into Hallmark. Again, just totally, we wrote a spec without any expectations and then kind of sold it
So
in.
did they have to make lots of changes to fit it for the 9 act structure and all that for
Yes.
that? Yeah,
It was
sure.
almost a page one rewrite. I feel like for both of
Mm,
our that and also sealed with the list.
okay.
Sealed with the list was like that was a script that we had for like a decade. That it was like the first movie we wrote together that kind of just sat on the shelf for many, many years. It came really close to getting made several times and then just never happened. After Golden Dragon, Hallmark's like, do you have anything else? And we're like, well, we have this New Year's resolutions one that could work for Christmas. That one was definitely a page one rewrite because that was the tone of it was very like PG-13 R.
Mhm.
And like we had to make it very Christmassy. So yeah, in both cases, because they were specs not written for Hallmark, we did have to fit it into the 9 act structure and just tonally make it more Hallmarky.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a brilliant idea because
Mhm.
any of us knows that the Chinese restaurants
Yeah,
are it's kind of the joke is the Jewish Christmas, right? It's like
exactly. Yes. They're
people that
very busy on Christmas.
are the people that don't celebrate Christmas
Yeah,
go to Chinese food on
exactly.
Christmas. So it was very clever and a lot of fun and so many different stories that you told all at the same time.
Yeah,
So
again, because we were Hallmark newbies, we didn't know that they don't normally do that. That is not
yeah,
a very typical Hallmark structure.
no.
That whole love actually, lots of
Hmm.
intersecting, storylines.
Yeah.
So I think that was helpful in just not knowing anything. We wrote something different enough for them that they, were interested in.
Yeah. And I liked Sealed with a List a lot too. I thought it was very swoony. I liked that it told it was a longer period. So it was over the course of like a
Sure.
year that you're with these characters, their banter. It helped them feel sort of more believable in their choices and what they were
Yeah.
doing. And so it was unusual, I think, in that way that it had a little bit more
Yeah,
time.
it definitely felt a little like younger for
Hmm.
Hallmark, and I think that's kind
Yeah.
of new direction they're going in right now.
Yeah. And that ending kiss was unforgettable.
Yes, I
It was
know.
so good.
I had nothing to do with that. I wasn't the director, but it was great.
Yeah. Well, hope that you keep I hope that Netflix doesn't steal you away and that we can still have you doing some Hallmark in the
Yes, well, I
future.
have a new one coming out,
Oh,
Christmas
you
with
do?
the Kings. Yes. So that one I co-wrote with Patricia Isaac. So that
Oh,
one is coming out on November 15th.
what's it called? Your new one?
Christmas with the Sings.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm excited about that.
It's
Yeah.
a really fun one.
Very cool.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
All right. Well, so Cesar, how did you get involved in this project since this was your first one? How did it all happen?
So it started with like I said, with the original treatment by Dustin Ellis, which Mark Burton, the producer at Wonder Worldwide, showed to me, and it was his original treatment that had, this story that I thought was lovely about this ghost from the 20s that dies, and gets into this relationship with this boy in the present day where she's haunting his house. It's just a very lovely story that I think that they were developing originally as it was supposed to be an animated feature, I think, but they wanted
Oh,
to
okay.
change that to
Did you just know
like
them by chance? You have
no,
any
I
friends
think
or?
no, I think I met Mark on just a general meeting, and we talked about what I was doing and what he was doing, and he mentioned that project, and I was immediately intrigued about this idea of this premise and these characters, and I read the treatment, and it was so lovely, and so I kind of pitched my take on what the live action version would be, and what I believe the characters were a bit younger originally, so what the version with older characters would be. And Mark was on board with that. He really liked it, and we developed the script off of that original treatment by Dustin, and that became Girl Hunts Boy eventually, after many drafts and all that, all the development process. But that's how it started. That's how I was brought on board to the project.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you got the treatment, and then sort of what was your next step from there? How did you kind of go about it?
Well, I read the treatment. And I really liked the premise, and the character of being cool. All that just really resonated with the kind of story that I love, and it's just my job from then was kind of
Hmm.
pitch my take on that in a version of that's live action, that's more YA. And so I first step was the pitch and discussing that with Mark, and it really resonated with him and everyone at Wonder Worldwide. And then came the process of actually writing the script, and we went through several drafts, which is not unusual, like at all. You usually go through
Sure.
many drafts of a script until it's ready to go. But it was a really fun process because I grew up loving stories like this, and this kind of intersection of grounded and fantasy. I was a big reader of kind of fantasy novels growing up, but also I was a big fan of romantic comedies and dramedies in movies growing up. And Girl Hunts Boy kind of gave me the chance to play around with both genres because it's a little bit of
Yeah.
fantasy and it's a little bit of a rom-com too. So it's a really fun process. It's just every draft bringing this closer to what it eventually became on film. It was challenging, like every script is, but it was really fun.
So Emily, when did you come on board in the whole process?
So this project sort of fell in my laps. I don't know how long, Cesar, you were developing the project, but I think I was attached like just weeks before we started Heart Prep. From what I understand, I guess they've been like interviewing other directors, but they couldn't nail down on anyone. And by the time I came on board, I basically got an email from my agent saying that the executives at HBO Max wanted to meet me. This was like right after Tall Girl 2 had just come out on Netflix. So this was originally set up at HBO Max, and the Max
Okay.
executives, based off of Tall Girl 2, wanted to have a general meeting with me, but they had the script that they thought I could be good for. So it was kind of like, read it, you guys could discuss it at the general meeting. But it was framed as like a general meeting, they want to get to know you. So then I go and have this meeting. And I just love the executives, like right off of the bat. It was just a very good meeting, and I like knew I wanted to work with them, and I had read the script, and I told them how much I loved it. Like that last like 10 pages of the script, like
Uh-huh.
had me crying. Like I just, I really love the project. I really love the vibe of these executives. And then at the end, they're like, okay, if you like the script, would you like to pitch on it? And I was like, yeah. They're like, but here's the thing, we're supposed to hire a director like yesterday. So if you want to pitch on it, you have to like come in 2 days to like do a pitch. Now, usually when I do a directing for hire pitch, I do a whole deck. It's got like 50 to 60 slides of like your entire vision for the movie. And those take time. And I'm usually given at least like a couple weeks to first like develop my vision and then put together a deck. They gave me two
Oh, that's
days.
interesting.
And they were like, look, we don't want to put you on the spot. You could think about it. If it's too rushed, don't worry. We have other candidates available, maybe on the next one. We know we just sprung this on you. And then like it's like take some time to think about it. And as soon as I like hung up with like the HBO Max executives, my agent called on the other line. It's like, so are you gonna do it? And I'm like, okay, bye. So yeah, I had to very quickly put together a pitch in 2 days. And I have never gone through a process where like I pitched in the morning. I remember it was like 11 o'clock. And then by 4 p.m., we got an offer. And they're like, can you fly to Jersey in 2 weeks? It was
Wow. So did they
so,
cast it really quick then? If you weren't on it and hadn't even done the pitch till 2 weeks before.
so Peyton was already attached.
Okay, Peyton was.
I think Peyton was part of the package, from what I understand. She was already attached by the time I came on. But like Michael Cimino, that was through audition. Like everyone
Oh
else,
wow.
it's like literally like as soon as like I accepted the offer, we hit the ground running. We were like casting, we were like interviewing for, department heads. It was all very quick.
Uh-huh. Wow. Wow. When you were writing, Caesar, did you have any particular teen movies that were kind of inspirational for you that you were?
Yeah, I mean, there's many because like I said, I grew up watching those kinds of films. I think one reference that kept coming back was all of John Green's books because I'm a huge John
Oh,
Green
okay.
fan. So Fault in Our Stars and Looking for Alaska and everything that he's written. I think there's a couple of books I haven't read of his, but I read most. So that was something I had in mind, but also just in general, not necessarily YA stories, but rom-coms of the 90s and early 2000s, which I grew up loving, like Richard Curtis, that's his name, right? Richard
Yeah.
Curtis films like, Love
Yeah.
Actually, and all the Hugh Grant films from the 90s and 2000s, Sleepless in Seattle, all the classics are stuff that I've always aspired to write stuff like that with like great dialogue and great characters. And so those were not just YA movies, but in general, all those movies that I grew up loving, and books too that I grew up kind of
Yeah.
reading.
What about you, Emily? Were there any particularly teen romances that you were kind of inspired by?
So, on a visual level, and this was sort of like the pitch that I brought, which is I didn't really want it to look like a stereotypical teen rom-com, whatever you kind of think that is. So, in my lookbook, like I had stills from Phantom Thread, Atonement. It's like I
Interesting.
wanted it to have a very kind of elevated look and feel and have it be very timeless, because this is, a love story across time. And obviously, Cole is set in present day or at the time 2022, but he still wears like earbuds as opposed to like AirPods. And he still listens to records, and they have landline phones. Like and the house, I wanted to have a very timeless feel. So, and also with the visuals, I'm like, just because this is a teen romance, it doesn't have to look like a Disney Channel like movie of the week per se. Like I wanted to have a very kind of
Yeah.
cinematic quality. So that's why you have a lot of the shaft of light and kind of like that haze, um, and just that play on color. So I wanted the whole thing to have a very elevated look and feel, even though it's within this genre of like teen rom-com.
Well, I really felt like it was almost more of a friendship story than it even was a romance story. Was that something important to you, Cesar, to bring that out?
Yeah, I think ultimately their relationship in the best version of it should have worked regardless of if it's a romance or not. It's just a
Yeah.
bond that these two form in a period of both of their lives when they kind of desperately need it. Cole kind of shut off the world since the tragedy in his personal life, and Bee's just going through her own very personal tragedy where he's suddenly the first person that can see her in a long time, and so that bond, I think it ends up turning romantic as the movie progresses. But I think what makes it special is not necessarily just the romance; it's just these two people that were in an emotional place where they found each other as kind of the way out um of this dark place that they both found themselves in. And that, that can take many forms. It can be romantic. I mean, the movie turns out to be that way. But I think you're right that what makes it special is that this bond is special, regardless of if it were romantic or not, between Cole and B, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, Emily, what do you think would surprise people about the movie that they might not expect?
I think the ending.
Yeah.
I think you look at the marketing of the movie. I mean, I understand, like the poster and the trailer, they're really trying to set up this like really fun and frothy teen rom-com. Like even the poster, like I was talking to Cesar, I was like, oh, I wish they had used like a still from the Gatsby party where it was like more moody and with the light but like tonally it would have felt older. I know. I mean, at least when I signed on, this is supposed to be a clean teen. So it's sort of like the younger teen demographic. So with all the marketing, they were trying to kind of like position the movie that way. And I think a lot of people going in with certain expectations. And for most of the movie, it's this sort of like, lighthearted, fun kind of like you said, like a friendship movie between them. But then like the last sort of like 15 minutes of the movie kind of really hits you in the feels. And I think a lot of people are very like unexpected by that, right? Like that just totally hits you in the feels. And me the same way the first time I read the script. Like for most of it, I was like, oh, this is really cute. This is really fun. And then like it just like made me cry the last like 10, 15 pages. Yeah.
Was that hard figuring out how to end it, Cesar?
Yeah, it was. That was part of the very original pitch because the treatment had a different ending. And actually, I think the first thing that really excited me when I was trying to come up with the first pitch to talk to Mark Burton about it was I was trying to figure out, okay, so how does the story change? What's different if it's live action? What's different if it's YA? And the idea of the photo album and well, I don't want to spoil everything that happens at the end, but the idea of that ending just came to me, and I was really excited about it. And I was like, okay, this might totally not work, or it might totally work, and I guess I'll find out when I pitch it. And I pitched it, and it really resonated with Mark as well. And so that idea was there from very early on, and the story was written. A lot of things changed in the process of writing the script and rewriting it, but that ending was there from very early on. It was there from the pitch, yeah.
I watched it and I was like, that was so tender. That's how I would describe the ending. It was very, very tender and sweet. And obviously I like Hallmark movies, so I like tender and sweet. I'm a fan. It's really cute. So well done. Way to go. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the good folks at Harper Press and Lindsay Detweiler and her new book, The Holiday Bake Off. Nothing can stop Lucy Carter from chasing her dreams until her boyfriend drops the bomb and tells her he's leaving her for someone else. Complicating things, she gets a phone call from her ailing grandmother asking her to return to the small town of Star Creek to help out with her beloved bakery. In the name of family loyalty, Lucy is forced to leave her aspirations behind, but the bakery's newest employee, an expert baker, handsome Will Westerly, might get in the way of her holiday. To get all of your holiday sweets reading in, make sure you check out The Holiday Bake Off by Lindsay Detweiler. You can get it wherever you purchase your holiday books or online and use the affiliate link below. It's The Holiday Bake Off by Lindsay Detweiler. We know you'll love it. How did you end up bringing in Michael singing? How did that happen?
So Michael, we already had Peyton cast, and then the search was on for Cole. And our casting director has sent in just like a list of actors like in that age range. And right away I saw Michael's name and I just had a feeling that Michael is our guy. Two reasons. One, I was a huge fan of Love Victor. I just loved his work. I thought he like embodied who Cole is in the character of Victor. What's funny is if you know Michael in real life, he's actually very different from Cole and Victor. But when I was casting for Tall Girl 2, he actually came in and auditioned. And I remember he like played the guitar and there was like instruments all over his room and that he was a musician. So I already had experience with him. He wasn't quite right for the role that we were casting for Tall Girl 2, but I thought he was perfect for Cole. So we brought him in, and it was down to him and maybe a couple other actors that we then sent to do a chemistry read with Peyton. And back then it was still COVID, so it wasn't in a room, it was just on Zoom. But you just knew because as soon as so Peyton was here, as soon as he came on, like the chemistry was just electric. It's like right off the bat, you're like, okay,
That's
I
so
can see
amazing.
these two together. So even though the other actors were like great actors in their own right, but sometimes it's just about the right chemistry. So once we saw that Zoom, like everyone was sold.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, that must have been cool just to see him like sing this song, and it's so beautiful, and the whole process of having the song written and everything.
It helps that Michael is a singer, songwriter, and
Okay.
I don't think he played the guitar as well. Like he did have to get lessons. But the singing, that was all him, and he already has a music background, so that definitely helps.
Mm, yeah. So you said that you turned this into a novel? Is it a graphic novel or a regular novel,
No, no,
Cesar?
it's a non-graphic novel, just a regular
Okay,
novel.
it's regular. Okay. So what was that? How's that? What was
That
that
yeah,
process
that
like?
it was a bit crazy that process because we first had the idea and we first started talking about the idea of turning this into a novel back. I think it was 2022, but then we had issues and there were pauses in the process and it kind of the idea was kind of put on a shelf for a while. And then in 2024 and this year, we were ready to get the movie released a few months back, and the idea came back, and we had this conversation with Abrams Publishing, and they were like, "We would love to do the novel version of this," and I was like, "I would love to write it because it was there's so much that in the process of writing the script you have to pick and choose because the script has to be like 1 hour and 30 minutes, 1 hour and 40 minutes." And there's stuff that we loved in the story that informed the characters and the story in the script that didn't ended up making it into even the final version of the script and just the idea of being able to explore these characters not just on the screen but inside their heads because the book is in narrating in the first person from both the characters that felt very appealing. They're like, great, we're
Mhm.
really excited about that too. We have like 2 months. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh,
Oh my gosh.
it's just like, can you do it? And I was like, we're gonna find out. So from writing the first draft to the printing process, going through copy editing and proofreading and editing and all that, it was I think it was like 60 days, a little bit more maybe, but it wasn't a long time. It was a very tight schedule, but it was doable first because of the wonderful team at Abrams and the wonderful work we did with the script and the film, because I had the best outline ever because
Mhm.
of the movie at that point. I had seen cuts of it, so just I could not ask for a better outline than just the movie that we had made and that like very few novelists get. You have to do your own outline. That takes a long time, but having the movie to kind of guide me through the novel writing was insanely hard. It was the only reason why I was able to do that in like 60 days. Otherwise it would have been impossible. But
Yeah.
it was still a pretty rushed process. Yeah.
Wow.
But it was really fun. It was great diving back into those characters and
Yeah.
seeing them from a point of view where you're inside their heads. It breathes new life into the story, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Emily, I don't know if you know about this production side of it, but I was just curious what the process was like for getting either making or finding the rings. Was that hard at all? Like getting the perfect ring?
Oh, yeah. So that was all the prop department.
Yeah.
So we actually designed that ring ourselves and
Okay.
made it. We got it made. So the prop department had a ring maker, like design. Like I think they came up with like three different designs, and then we chose our favorite one. And so it wasn't like they bought this ring from a flea
Right.
market. Like they actually made this ring and aged it down. So we did the best we could with like making a cursed ring from scratch. But that was a pretty cool process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it has to look authentic to the 20s.
Yeah.
I mean, had you ever done a movie that had any time set in
Period.
the past, any period elements?
No.
So
So
that
that was
will,
another reason why beyond just loving the story, one, the 1920s part, um, and also the VFX. Like I've never done anything with VFX and I've never done anything with like a period piece. And that was very like interesting to me to like kind of have experience with that. And like I love filming all the 1920s stuff. It was really cool to kind of see, it's like we're like here, and then all of a sudden we call like action, and I'm like, oh, with all the extras and the period cars like populated, I'm like, wow, this
It's a
actually
lot.
the 20s.
Yeah.
So it was very cool.
Yeah. I've always thought that the director seems like sort of the CEO of the movie. And it must be challenging to sort of coordinate between your editor and your director of photography and your all the different people that all is is that a challenge?
I mean, that's part of the fun of directing, because I'm both a writer and a director. I love to write, but it's a very solitary process. When you're
Mm.
directing, you're kind of like captain of this ship, right? It's like every day everyone is like coming at you with like all these questions, like make a decision, make a decision. But I think like but honestly, like the crew made the movie. All I did was like I came up with a vision and I did like 100-page pit like deck where like I talked to the costume, I talked to production design. Once I conveyed my vision, they're the ones who really executed it, and they executed this movie beautifully. And then like once we were done with production, down to like editing and then the music and, like originally, due to budget, we told Keegan, our composer, oh no, we don't need a full orchestra, just like a few strings. But then once we hit the climax, I'm like, no, we need a full orchestra. So I think we had to go and like record everything. I think it was like Bulgaria or like Eastern
Uh-huh.
Europe somewhere where we were able to afford like a full orchestra. I think again, you start out with one vision and then like things change and you're like, no, like this is such a, heartfelt moment. We really need that crescendo of the music to come in. And Mark, our producer, found us some money to hire a full orchestra. And in a way, I feel like the producer is really the CEO who
Mm.
kind of like runs the whole ship in terms of like making sure everything's on time and on budget and all. Like a director, like if a producer did their job right, like I get to just focus on the creative aspect. And I
Yeah.
felt like I was very kind of protected on this project where he handled all the problems and I get to just sort of execute my vision.
Yeah. Well, for both of you, what would be your pitch to the listeners
Mm.
saying Hallmarkies will like this, give it a shot, they'll like this movie? What would you say, Cesar?
I think my pitch would be, I think if you're a fan of movies where you find yourself laughing and having a great time, and then all of a sudden you're crying and you have no idea what happened, which were always my favorite movies,
Yeah.
then Gerhardt's Boy is the film for you.
Ah, okay, good. What about
Yeah.
you,
If
Emily? What would
if
be your
you're
pitch?
looking for a good cry, a
Uh-huh.
cathartic experience, watch this movie. And I know Hallmarkies, like they might look at this and they think, oh, it's a YA film, it's for kids. And I just want to say, I feel like most of the fans of this film have been like teenagers' moms. It's like the moms
Yeah,
who reach out to me, like,
I can
I
see that.
watched this with my 16-year-old daughter and I didn't think I was gonna like it, but I loved it. It made me cry. Like it really is a movie for all ages. Like, don't be put off by like the title or the
Yeah.
poster, like, oh, it's for kids. It really isn't. Like, my mom has seen this movie so many times and she cries every time. She loved it. I really think it's a family-friendly movie for the whole family. And maybe the protagonists are a little younger than your typical Hallmark movie. But if you enjoy
Yeah.
good banter and like a touching ending, I think this is the movie for you for sure.
Like I'm always a little bit skeptical of YA because I really dislike movies with that whole like disgruntled, angry,
Oh,
sullen, miserable
sure,
teenager.
sure.
Like and so and some of them can be good, but in general, that's not my favorite. And so I always like, okay, I'll watch it. Then I started this and I'm like, these are both such sweet people. I just loved them both. And so if you're like me and you're kind of like, I don't know, give it a shot. I think you'll really enjoy it. You just enjoy seeing these two humans get to know each other and interact with each other and fall in love. And really the ending is so heartwarming. I really did enjoy it. And so I'm so glad that I got to talk to both of you.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Some rapid fire get to
Oh,
know you questions we like to end with.
okay.
So the first question is, what is the best ice cream flavor? What about you, Emily?
Pistachio.
No, I'm gonna be very boring because mine's vanilla. It actually is.
That's okay. What's your favorite color?
Oh my God. Rose pink.
Good.
Well, I wear a lot of black, so I'm gonna say black.
Okay, good. What music are you into?
Okay, this is gonna sound very biased, but I've been listening to the soundtrack
Nice.
of Girl Hunts Boy nonstop in the last few days. And
That's
Taylor
good. You haven't
Swift.
gotten sick of it because you. That's good.
I love the fact that our movie references Taylor Swift a couple of times because I'm a huge Swiftie. I love
Ah,
Taylor
We
Swift.
both
So
are.
okay, good. All right. What is your go-to date night food?
Oh my God. When's the last time I went on a date? I've been married for so long. Sushi. If we could ever get a babysitter, sushi. Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
I didn't have a good answer, so I'm gonna go with Emily. I'm gonna go with sushi too. Yeah,
Well,
that's
sushi's
good.
a good answer because it's dainty. You don't
Yes.
like is I want as little chances of spillage as possible.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
key.
That's smart.
So
Yeah, I like that.
yeah. So what is your go-to date night activity if you're going out doing something?
Oh my God. Because I have two little kids, it's so rare that we even get to go out. I think if we could just have a meal where we could talk to each other and not about our kids,
Yeah.
it's like a godsend. But in the olden days, we loved to go to the movies. I think we used to go to the movies at least like once or twice a week. Those days are gone.
Yeah. You're like that you have like the Bechdel test but with kids. Like you don't want to talk about
Could
kids.
we, yeah, have a 1 hour conversation not about our kids?
Yeah. That makes sense. What about you, Cesar?
Yeah, I think to me, my go-to activity for most things is going to the movies. It's one of my favorite things to do in the
Mhm.
world, so I'm gonna go with movies. Shoot.
Well, we always say that if you do the movie date, you want to do dinner, not moving dinner. I mean, not dinner and a movie. You want to do movie
Movie.
and dinner.
Then so you can talk about the movie
You can
during
talk
dinner,
about the
right?
movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Which do you like better, dogs or cats?
Cats,
I'm a dog person. I had dogs all my childhood.
Okay. Which do you like better, beaches or mountains?
beaches,
I'm from a beach town, so beaches too. Yeah.
Same. Okay. What's your favorite holiday to celebrate?
Christmas.
I
Yeah.
mean, I really love Christmas, but I have to say Carnival because it's I'm from Brazil,
Oh,
so I'm gonna go
yeah.
with Carnival. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, last question. What is your favorite Hallmark or romantic movie? You can pick one of your own, no judgment.
Sealed with a list
Yes,
on Hallmark and
good.
Girl Hunts Boy on Netflix.
Other than Girl Hunts Boy, um, probably not my I take a long time to say my favorite of all time, so I'm gonna go with a recent-ish one that I really loved, which is La La Land. La La Land, I think, is a beautiful,
Okay,
beautiful romantic film.
very good. Well, you did it. You answered all the questions. Thank you so much for coming on. And do you have social media or anything like that you want to share?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Emily Ting 917. That's pretty much the only social media I use. And I'm also on Letterboxd if you want to follow me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
same.
and Hallmarkies should totally sign up for Letterboxd because we need more positive reviews for your Hallmark movies on there. They get lowballed so bad.
It's really funny to read the Letterboxd like reviews of Hallmark movies because those are like cinephiles.
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry, this movie's not made for you.
Yeah. Well, what drives me crazy is when somebody will say, "This was such a cute movie. I really enjoyed it." 2 stars. Like, what?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of these. Yeah, it's just,
Okay. Yeah.
okay. I'm not sure how you feel about the movie still, but
I loved it. I cried at the end. 2 stars.
Yeah. What's wrong with you? But what about you, Cesar? What's your social? Do you have any?
yeah, I'm not on Letterbox. I'm basically only use Instagram as well, and it's Cesar Vitale. It's just my name
Great.
on Instagram. That's basically all I use.
Great. Well, thank you both so much and hope you both have very Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you so much
too.
for having us.
Bye.